Okay, hi and welcome. All right. It is 37 freaking degrees out there. That's 98 Fahrenheit for my American brothers and sisters. And believe it or not, I'm gonna work on the van here. I've already done a bit of assessments. I'm not gonna get into the rotors today. It's just that's cruel and unusual punishment when it's that hot. But I was able to crack the front wheel nuts. Because the way I put them on last time, in fact, when it was kind of loose, I guess when I parked the van, I didn't really put the wheel nuts on there as tight as they should be. And I guess you shouldn't drive around with it with the wheel nuts loose. I know, suck it up, be a man. But I'm going to show you what I did. My heating vents, which this one I got back on, and it seems to be there, but I don't know if it's going to stay on, so I'm going to reinforce that. But this one just doesn't want to seem to go in there. I'm slowly cleaning up this beast, and you see it's not quite. See, it keeps falling off. See, it's not got a foobarred. It just doesn't want to. So I'm gonna have to do some major construction in there, which means duct tape. So even if it gets hot and it melts it to it, it'll just fuse it. So the idea is that because last year, before I parked it, I mean there was no heat coming out of the. I know talking about heat on a day when it's like. God knows what it is with the humidex, so probably over 40. It's not as bad as it was 3 days ago. It's not as humid, but it is humid. It is hot. Like I'm like walking around like, like about passing. Like I'm Canadian. I can't take that kind of heat. But anyway, yeah. So why not work on the heating system today? Sure, why not? I cleaned it up a bit. See, I got a shiny spot. Right beside that's the shiniest rust I've ever seen. The exhaust is solid, but the heat shielding I'm going to have to replace that. That's way later. If I'm not really worried about that. The other thing I did is I diagnosed my rotors. This is the newer rotor, and there's a good sized lip on that. So I don't know if I can get that turned. If I can get it turned and roll it down the road a little bit more, maybe it's too far gone. But this one, you don't feel the lip as much, but there's a lip there, but it's pretty bad. I'm gonna try the grinder method first. Why? Because if I could just get rid of some of that pulsing, or just reduce it so that it's not so scary, then it'll buy time buy me time to save up for the brake rotors, which I don't know if rotors are like $60 a piece, but if I can get away with $10 a piece, turning them for $10 a piece, of course the wind's coming along. Oh, nice breeze though. But if I get away with getting them turned versus that I save myself basically $50 per side, so $100 I'll save if it can get me down the road for another say year and a half, 2 years. That'd be good. For $20, I'm in. If I can do that. If not, I have to replace the rotors altogether. And I want to assess the rotors. Like a lot of things, I don't want to just throw parts at the problem. Well, I do, but I don't have the money to. When you just replace the part, yeah, it takes care of some of the problem. But sometimes it's more of a question of labor rather than parts. And when it comes to stuff like that, it's like sometimes... Like that rotor, or the driver's side rotor here, I replaced this like, 3 years ago, and I got to replace it again. So I got another problem, which could be the brake calipers are completely worn out, most likely. But maybe I can rebuild the brake calipers for $20 a piece rather than paying $75 for new ones. But, I have to take everything apart and assess it. Too hot to do it today, and I've got all the time in the world to work on this. This thing isn't going on the road for at least 2 or 3 months anyway, so... 2 or 3 months of labor on this thing, periodically, work on it a couple hours a day or an hour or so a day, whatever I have time for. It's going to be when I put it on the road, it's going to be like my bike. I'm going to twist every nut and bolt on it, and then I don't have to worry about it. I'll know what it needs. Things like the leaky radiator and stuff like that, I can live with that for now. It's really the main things to get this on the road, to be able to roll it down the road safely. Yeah, I got to fix the braking pulsing problem. And I got to fix the windshield and the exhaust. The windshield is just because that's what's going to get me pulled over, and then The rust, I can plug away on that for the next 2 years. It's bad in a lot of areas, but it's the structural parts of it are okay. Now, it's not like I travel with this thing every day, so this vehicle is just to get me to the next vehicle. But I want a vehicle that I can go places with. When the exhaust has got a big hole in it, you don't drive it anywhere because you're afraid of getting pulled over. When you got a big crack in the windshield, you don't drive it anywhere. And when it doesn't stop properly, you don't want to be in stop and go traffic. You know, so getting the thing to stop properly is the first. Before I throw any money at it whatsoever, I'm going to try all the kind of patch it now, fix it later tricks to keep it going down the road. Like again, if I can get the rotors turned, heck, phase one will be. I gotta see if I can find in there a brush pad for the grinder, and I thought I had one, but it's in there. If I can find that, if not, I'll pick one up. I'll try that first. That's the $2 to $5 fix, okay? And if that doesn't work, then I go to the $10 fix. And then if that doesn't work, then I got to buy the $75 fix per side. But I'm also want to stress something here. Don't spend $100 to save 10, okay? So that means when I pull these rotors apart, okay, already I've got the lip. And there's a couple of things you're going to look for. First is, you're going to look for that lip right there. I don't want that lip on there, but it's on there. The second is, you can't really see it that well, but there's shiny spots on the rotor, so they need to be scuffed up. If I'm lucky, this rotor I might be able to save. The third thing is the thickness of the rotor, whether it's worth turning it or not. Because if you thin out one rotor and the other one's a different thickness, you're going to get an uneven. And you saved nothing, you spent... So in other words, if you would have just spent the $75 per rotor, plus tax of course, you've now spent $80, $90. And you spent more than what you needed to because you didn't assess things. So assess it first, then see what you need and what the better option. Sometimes it's cheaper to buy the more expensive option. So you got three options with the rotors. Leave them the way they are, which I cannot do because it's a safety hazard. Option two, just, no fuss, no muss. Grab the part, pull it off, put on a new part. But also, too, you want to diagnose why your rotors are going, right? So the rotors, like if that's rotors less than 2 years old, why is it going within 2 years? Well, it's probably because I got, most likely have worn out brake calipers. So maybe the brake caliper is just cheaper to replace the brake caliper altogether. Remember, this is a 16-year-old vehicle, so I want to do this on the cheap, but I also don't have to keep fixing it, and then you end up spending 3 times the amount trying to save $10. You end up spending $100 just trying to save 10. So if the part needs to be replaced, which I'm not very lenient on stuff like that. It's like, okay, well, I'll try the cheap fix first because I probably already have everything I need here, and it's basically, it's a gamble, but it's like, okay, well, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter because I'll skip this, the second phase rather than getting them turned. Like if the thickness of the rotor's not right, then there's no point in getting them turned, right? So if I could take, if they're within the tolerance, I have to find out what the tolerance is. Then I'll find out whether it's worth turning them or not. Because for the price of one rotor, I could do all 4 brakes if they're all within spec, and it'd be like, for $40, it's still cheaper than one rotor, and I do all 4 brakes, or all 4 rotors, and they're all even and everything like that. And then let's say, the back brakes never seem to be giving you problems, I guess because the push versus the pull, right? So when you really think about it, your back brakes are kind of pulling the back wheel to a stop, where the front is technically kind of diving or pushing your front wheels to a stop. Maybe yes, maybe no. You know what I'm getting at. That it's just, that's the train parts are never usually as stressed as the drive parts, is I guess what I'm getting at. So the calipers, they were pretty bad when I looked at them last, but like for example, the outside of the calipers here, ow! I just got stung again. Where did you go? Oh, you little bastard, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. Little freaking bee or wasp stung me. Oh, that's one this year. No, that's 2 this year. I think that's 3 this year. Why do I keep getting stung? I hate you, stupid little... but yeah, this looks pretty bad. It looks pretty bad from the outside here. And whatever, but maybe it's not as bad as you think. I freaking stupid little wasp. I mean, oh God. So anyway, yeah, so you can see that these things are pretty, these are probably original, these are probably 16 years old. So I probably won't get away with just rebuilding them, because it's not just the internals, there's, you know, all the sliding rails and everything like that too. If that stuff was all done, it's just cheaper. It's more expensive, the initial cost, but it's cheaper in the long run to just replace it. Now, this rotor, I'm most likely is going to be completely toast. This was done when I replaced the other one, so that's where I'm at with that. So I'm going to take it apart and assess it, and if it's just better to replace it all outright, then I will. Today I'm not going to get at it, it's just way too hot. It's supposed to cool down by the weekend a little bit, so that's the thing in July. Like, July is when you can work on stuff, but it's also, it's like it's so hot. Oh my God, that little guy got me good. He got me in the back calf here. You see his, feel that stinger still in there. Oh, freaking sweat wasps, eh? Oh, bugger. Alright, but I guess maybe if I could, just so I could accomplish something today on this thing. It's too hot to work on the boat, and I don't have any fuel left for the grass, so I'm going to have to get some more fuel so I can cut the grass by the weekend. And yeah, so I'm going to see if I can fix up my vents, just tape them up so they don't fall apart. Like last winter they kept falling apart and you just couldn't get in there to, well, you can get in there, but you just couldn't, you know, like tape doesn't stick in the cold, you know what I mean? If it's on there ahead of time, you know, and it you know, it's sitting in that nice toasty engine bay for June, July, August, September, by that time, yeah, it's fused, so it won't just keep falling off. But I'm going to try that fix. I don't have any clamps, so I'll try that fix first, and if it falls off, then I'll try something else. I think what it is that this part's worn out. I think well, maybe it's all worn out, who knows. But yeah, both of them fell off over the winter, so I was freezing. And then the next thing I'm going to have to check too is I want to be able to plug this thing in this winter, so I'm going to have to get to the heating core for the block heater, test that thing and see if what it is. So I'll have to track this from here all the way to where the probe is, and then probably have to put a new probe in there. I'll have to price that out. That's the main reason why I took it. Well, not the main reason. One of the reasons I took it off the road last year is that it would be sitting here, and with all the snow we got, I didn't want to have to worry about not being able to start the van when the plow guy comes along. So I parked it, and I figured that was it. But my dad didn't pull the plate off of it, so therefore it can be insured. It's $165 for the plate. I can't believe that, because it's a sport on it. It's a freaking soccer mom van. You know, they said sport just to make people feel better about themselves. But this is an awesome vehicle. It really is, for what it is. For what it is, like it's just so utilitarian. Like it's okay. It's gonna win no show awards, but as far as okay, I need to go get all the groceries. You got it. Okay, you need to take 7 people somewhere. You could do it. You don't want to leave something in the back of your pickup truck that can get stolen. You can put it in here. You know, it's so useful, and it rides nice. I mean, the other thing too, if you go camping and it rains, you can sleep. You pull out 2 seats and you sleep in the back. You know, it's just such a useful. Yeah, there we go, van life. Eh? But anyway, I'm going to get to that, and that's the update. So, like on my bike, you're going to see a whole bunch of series. Everything I do to this, I'll document it the best I can. And as I document it, I am not a licensed mechanic. I'm just the guy that has no money and has to figure out how to fix things on the cheap. But I'm also not going to lie to you and say, okay, this is the actual, you know, don't waste your money on this because this is the cheap way to do it. And a lot of guys will do that, where they'll say, oh, if you just do this, you don't have to spend all that money. But what they don't tell you is that patch it now, fix it later is a theory that is worked in practice more often than not. What that means is, okay, I'll kick the can down the road, avoid fixing it up properly for now. It just has to get me till next Wednesday or next payday so I can buy the proper parts. Problem is when payday comes around, nobody buys the proper parts, and then it leads to other problems. So they end up spending $100 to save 10. I do not want to do that. That said, this is a 16-year-old vehicle. I do not want to put $4,000 of repairs into a 16-year-old vehicle. It's just something I don't want to do. The rust, I'm just going to cosmetically do what I can with that. is what it is. It's not as bad as some beaters around here. Like the floor is actually pretty good. It's the sides right here that are really bad. But if I can nip that in the bud a bit, again, work on it and just work on it. What, you know, my final solution for this is 8 gallons of oil spray underneath. That's my final solution for this thing. Just hold together as long as you can. That's what, but like, I mean, the main things like the structural stuff, like right here is good. You know, your strut stuff is all good. Even on the back, the struts are good. But again, you want to assess everything, and I'll have the notepad out, and you know, I'm going to assess all my struts. I don't care if the shocks are worn. I mean, okay, yeah, it just makes it more of a floaty ride. Who cares? But again, it's not like I'm not Mario Andretti with this thing. So, so as I get things put together on it, I'll show you. Today was just basically crack the wheel nuts. I figure I might as well do the rear too. While I have the wheels off it, I'm going to clean these wheels. Yeah, it's never going to be a show car, but if I can make it look a little bit nicer, why not? And maybe rebalance the wheels too. The wheels on the front, the tires on the front are new. Last year, 240 bucks new. This year we got our tire changer sitting in front of the bike there. Got the bolts in the ground, so I'm going to change my own tires on this. That's not a hard thing to do. So these aren't low profile tires. I got to replace the back ones. The tread is not too bad, but they don't hold air properly. And every couple it's not as bad as the ones that are replaced in the front. But these back ones, they this side is okay. This side holds pressure, no problem. But the far side, and they're getting, dry rot and stuff like that. So it's not the top of the priority, but it's definitely, drivetrain stuff is very top. Well, it's all priority, like everything has to be safe, right? Because I do plan on taking the idea of having a vehicle is so you can travel. So let's say I take the van out twice a week, but I go to Ottawa or I go to Luskville or I go to Calabogie Raceway or something like that. Or, who knows, maybe I do a trip to Montreal. I want to make sure it's going to make it there and back, and not just. I don't want to have to guess if it's, is it going to make it there? If something breaks down, I want it to be a surprise, not, okay, will it hold together to get the trip done? I want to get past that phase. I guess most of us do. So this is going to be an ongoing project. I will finally change the oil in this. I don't know if the oil's original to this van, but no, it's not. I've topped up. I mean, it leaks. Everything leaks. Every couple of weeks, you got to top up the oil on it. Big trips, I always do like the pre-flight every time I take this thing out. So it's getting to the point where I'm, tweaking everything anyway. So I am trying to clean it off in here a bit. I can finally see. I didn't realize this sucker was a V6. I thought it was only a little 4-bank. I should have picked up on the 3 on there. We have 3 here, 1 on the other side is a 4. But I never looked. It's just, okay, I got a van. Right? And I cleaned it off. I'm like, oh, this thing's a V6? Oh, okay. I mean, there is an adequate amount of power in that little engine. It's pretty good. No, it's not going to become a tuner. No, I'm not going to put any. I mean, it'd be different if the body was like absolutely immaculate. Yeah, make a sleeper out of it, put a turbo in there. That'd be pretty funny. Nobody would expect it. It's like, here's this little minivan that just like leaves everybody in the dust. That'd be funny as hell. I do have that I have that sense of humor, but I don't have the money to back up my sense of humor. So no, it will just stay stock, and I'll be happy with 40. If I can get, if anything, I'd like to modify it to get 40, 50 miles to the gallon if that was ever possible. But it already gets probably about 38 to 40 miles to the gallon if you're not driving too fast. That's pretty good. And you got decent power. I mean, I don't drive this thing. I drive this thing 10 clicks below the speed limit. So if it's a 90 zone, I drive 80 if there's nobody behind me. If there's people behind me, I drive 90. If there's a whole bunch of people behind me, they can pass. 90 is as fast as I want to take this thing, especially in the condition it's in. At 100, the van floats around, and at 100 kilometers an hour, 60 miles an hour, it's still pretty good on fuel. But you go up to 110, 120, man, that's V6 will start to suck up that juice pretty fast. So, I mean, I open it up. The fastest I don't think I've ever got to 150 with it. I think at 140, that was my bravery threshold. Like, I felt like it was just going to blow apart on me. It was like, again, maybe if it was brand new, it would be like, oh no, I've had this thing up to 100 miles an hour and still pulling. I bet you it'd probably top out in mint condition, brand new. It'd probably top out at 120 miles an hour. I'm sure it'll do it if you had enough room to do it. But the thing is one gust of wind with the high center of gravity. It's like, like I say, at 100 kilometers an hour, it feels like you're in a race car. It's like it's the Starship Enterprise in warp mode at that point. But at 90, it's just a beautiful ride, and at 80, it's super, super comfortable. You know, and I tend to like to enjoy the ride and see the scenery anyway. So people want to go faster, they can go around. But also, too, the idea is with this machine is to keep it on the economy side of things. So, yeah, you got to put a little bit of money into it, and a lot of labor to get it back to working properly. But who knows, maybe if I can just get the brakes fixed enough, the exhaust fixed, hold off on the windshield, maybe the money I save up buys me another vehicle in the meantime. I'll ride this, and that was the goal, was to drive this into the ground and, you know, and save up for another vehicle. But then you guys know what happened with YouTube, and they demonetized everybody, and all that money, that $2,200 that I had saved up. I was going to buy a $2,000 car, and I thought, well, this thing is still running when I had the 2200. I said, well, I'll just go until this thing's dead completely, and maybe I'll be at 5,000. And then, you know, you could find a decent vehicle above 3,000 fairly easy if you know what you're looking for. When you get below 3,000, everything is hit and miss. Sometimes, like my brother, he lucked out, $1,000. He got that little Toyota Corolla, no rust on it. You know, little old lady left it in the garage most of the time, never winter driven. Like, that never happens, you know what I mean? Like, and if you don't have the cash on the spot when it does, whatever. This van was $700 or $600 that my dad got it for before it was rusted out. And it still runs, like, I mean, deal of the century, you know, when you think about it. It owes us nothing. Yeah, so if you have the money ready to go, but what my goal is just to assess everything, what I got to do, what's priority. I could live with the rust for, you know, a good while longer. But if I start getting on top of the rust now, maybe I'll get another 2 years out of it. I think in 2 years, the rust will be too bad structurally. But if I can, the goal would be to get this thing to the next vehicle, and then I could use this as, you know, like a backup or whatever. I mean, if it's still running, right? Why not? It would be nice to have a backup vehicle just in case. Okay, like you drive it like 4 times a year, or 2 weeks out of the year, just to keep it running enough so that your new vehicle, oh, it's broke down, or oh, okay, it needs whatever. Okay, fine, you drive this for a week until the other one's fixed and fixed properly. You're not in that, oh my God, I got to fix the vehicle within, you know, by the end of the weekend, and then you're rushing, and then you're just slapping on part of the parts and only taking care of part of the problem. I don't want to do that. I want a summer car, I want a winter car, and a backup. I want 5 motorcycles. Why? It's nice to have redundancy on a backup. So you could, when something breaks or something it's not, you know, well, the bigger one, and this is the big one, it'd be nice to have a second vehicle, okay, so that when you start to notice the problem, you can fix the problem, take the time, wait for the parts or whatever, drive the other vehicle, so that you can fix the problem before you need to, where you have no choice, where it's, and I know everybody's in the tight spot, and it's like, okay, well, here's what happens is, you know, I just don't have time to fix it now when it's easy to fix. I don't have the money right now when it's easy to fix. But if you were to be able to put it to the side and grab the other vehicle, save up the money, and then, okay, now I've got all the parts, I could do it all at once, or pay somebody else to do it, or whatever. I would love to be able to pay somebody else to do all this stuff for me. Why? Because it just make life easier. But on the other hand, you know, everybody would like to have life made easier for them. But if it's not going to make it easier, try to make it as stress-free as possible. And the easiest thing to do is just do the preventive maintenance. And I bet you a full tune-up, you know, 90% of the stuff is going to be clean it up, assess it, and just, you know, readjust. So I'm going to have to get a manual for this thing first. But some stuff you just could, you know, just get ahead of it and fix it right away. So that's where I'm at. I know this is a long video. These videos are always long, but this is what you're going to see with this vehicle. A lot of the stuff you'll see on this, you could apply to your own vehicle, especially if you got a beater like this. This is a beater, but, you know, it's still got life in it. It still runs good. And I mean, the way I'm looking at it is it's a write-off. Whatever money I put in this, I might as well just be burning the money. Because I could put all that money into it, fix every problem, then the engine goes. I mean, there's 180,000 on this thing, something like that. Yeah, the dash is out, but yeah. So, I mean, who knows what problems I could, there's no guarantees. But it is worth the gamble. I think it is worth the gamble. So, anyway, enough chattering. Got to get it done. There we go. So make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe because I think it's going to, the Road Rage van, the adventures are going to get more and more interesting as we go. Once you decide to put a little bit of a commitment on something, you it tends to get interesting. You can see the sag here. That's so funny. Funny and terrifying at the same time. But like I say, that's good. It's down there, right down here. This is where the worst part is. It seems like my dad and I were talking about last night, and I'll just end up on this, that you get a particular vehicle, and there's just a certain spot on every one of the vehicles that they make of that specific model rusts in that spot. And this, it's right. If you get yourself a Dodge Caravan, start rough proofing the bottom of your doors right here, because that's where your problem is going to be. Why is it there? I don't know. How does it know? I don't know, but it just does. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to fix my heating problem on this extremely hot day. Going to get the duct tape on there. And hopefully that'll hold for the winter. And maybe I'll find some clamps, get some C-clamps later on. I don't know. As long as it stays on for the winter, I'm good. All right. There we go. Have a great day.